the first pick in the NFL draft.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast. We are back with a Mock the Mock. We put a vote out earlier in the week to see who you wanted us to mock the mock, and you selected Mel Kiper. So today we are going to be going over Mel Kiper's first 2024 mock draft. These were a big success last year, Adam. People loved them. I'm really getting buzzing for the draft coming up. I've been watching a lot of highlights of the Senior Bowl. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, no, really exciting, isn't it? Going into this part of the season, it's funny. I think I'm a bit strange. I actually prefer this to the season. So almost, it's really weird. But yeah, this is the part where we see all the new guys coming into the league. There's hope for all of you teams that were appalling during the season. There is hope for you, and that's the great thing about the NFL draft. So yeah, we're going to go through Mel Kiper's one. You guys voted on it and chose Mel Kiper, so we're going to go through his number one mock draft for the year, and we will continue to do this all the way through this part of the NFL season.
Yeah, now I've got you into the college football a lot more and you are following loads more. How much more exciting is it when you've followed specific players to watch them then go into the draft, and then you've almost then got players you support on teams that aren't yours when they're in the NFL itself?
Yeah, I think if anyone's interested in fantasy, I think there's kind of a bit of a connection to that, because it's almost like with fantasy football, obviously you don't sort of like you don't have your own team, you wouldn't win. So it's like you have lots of different people, and so because of that it kind of feels a little bit like that, where you start watching the college lot don't specifically have a team. I know you do, obviously, of Ohio State, but like I don't particularly have a team that I follow religiously when it comes to college football. But you see all the guys coming through, and so it is interesting and exciting to see where they end up. Obviously we will have the combine and then the draft and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an exciting part of the season, along with free agency as well. So it is interesting.
Well, let's jump right into it. Let's have a little look if Mel Kiper's made any mad decisions. Obviously, we've got a couple of our prospect videos out already, so let's see if he's got some of the guys that we've selected as well. So I think it's a no trades one. I don't think anybody's got any trade one out.
No, I think that's it's a bit early, isn't it, for that? They tend not to do that until free agency started and people have started moving around, so that more often. So yeah, I mean, it is just a general sort of like where the guys are going and the picks that they're going to. So yeah.
Well, we'll jump straight into the first pick, and there's no shock there, Adam. First pick is Caleb Williams going to the Chicago Bears. I briefly had a quick look at this, and we've had lots of discussions about this pick between us. I think it's the right pick. And when we scroll down a little bit further, we'll see why, because he's made the same points that you've made, because I feel like Justin Fields is still a good quarterback, and I think he still could be a starting quarterback within the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fields is a capable quarterback. As you said, we think he's a starter. You can trade him away. This is the thing, isn't it? It is something. I feel like that you want to reset the quarterback contract is what I feel. However, I mean, although when this was done, and I think this was done maybe a week or two ago now, it does kind of it makes sense. You feel like he's the number one. He is the number one quarterback that we're all saying. I mean, there are a couple of other quarterbacks that are very, very good as well, but we feel like he's the number one. Although it is coming out that he doesn't want to go to the Bears, so we could have a bit of an Eli Manning sort of situation going on here. Or of course, the other thing is, USC Washington wants to stay in state, and Washington are number two. So it does feel like a trade is possible. Obviously, we're not doing trades on this particular one, but it feels like that is possible. But if you look at it purely as Bears are number one, they're definitely going to stay there. He's the best quarterback, so it makes sense that you'd go for him.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 points that I was talking about, Mel Kiper says Williams is a better prospect. I agree with that. And also, as you've just said, it resets the quarterback clock. And I think you just can't pass up on those 2 points and go with Fields, despite the fact I do love him.
Yeah, it feels like the obvious move, doesn't it? And even if it's true that he doesn't want to go there, and that's what they're saying for this specific exercise, it makes sense. And so, yeah, there's no, he hasn't done anything wrong here, has he? Let's face it.
Pick number 2. Slightly different, maybe, to some of the other people might point. Washington Commanders taking Jaden Daniels. You'll be happy with that. You're really high on this guy. You think he is possible? I'm guessing you think he's possibly the number 2 choice based on his attributes. I still think Drake May is, for me, the number 2. How do you feel about this pick, Adam?
So I think it depends on what we're talking about. I would say he's number 2 for fantasy. I don't think he's the number 2 quarterback. I would be saying that Drake May is the number 2 quarterback as well. So I'm a little surprised that they've gone for he's gone for Daniels here. I get it in respect of, I don't think there is a great deal of difference between the two of them. I think they're probably roughly about the same level. But on a personal point of view, for me, I just think that May is a little bit probably more NFL ready and a little bit more. I think he's probably, bigger guy. I think will help him for a career. Daniels, obviously, the scary thing with Jaden Daniels is that he's basically trying to be Lamar Jackson, but about 30 pounds lighter, which is a worry, because he's going to get hit. He's going to get hit hard by some of these defensive players. So that's the concern. But he won the Heisman Trophy. He looked great for LSU this year, so it's not really a shocker that he's been picked as number 2.
I mean, we don't know for sure whether any of these are going to be home run hits or work. So I think we're all in the census of 1, 2, 3 should be probably Williams, May, Daniels. So whatever order they go in is still the correct decision. I don't think you can make any wrong decisions just yet in terms of this. It's just 2 different styles. So whichever one they fall in love with the most. So I'm guessing, fingers crossed, the next pick is Drake May. New England Patriots go for Drake May. Things didn't work out with Mac Jones. So new GM coming in, new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. So why not go for new quarterback as well and properly restart things here, Adam? It's definitely the way they've got to go.
Yeah, I think quarterback's the obvious move for the Patriots at the moment. Like you say, Mac Jones, it hasn't really worked out. Bailey Zappi, definitely not where you want to be going. So it kind of feels like this is the obvious thing to do. Given the position that you're in at the 103, you're going to want to make that move for one of the best quarterbacks that's been in the college game over the last couple of years. And as I said, he kind of feels very Patriots, actually, Drake May. It's kind of like that, bigger guy, sturdy, powerful type of guy who can run with the ball as well. A lot of people, I think, are just saying that, because he's not Jaden Daniels, that he can't do it as much, but he can run with the ball. And so, I think he'll fit that structure quite well. Again, given the 2 that have gone, it's the obvious choice.
I mean, size, weight, build, speed. He's more of a Josh Allen than a Lamar Jackson. They're the type of players that you're looking at. So I think he fits their structure quite well. Heavy run game. He can throw the ball, and we know he's got a good arm. So good pocket presence as well. Steps up into the pocket very nicely and gives him full view of the field. So just need some wide receivers to throw the ball to.
But then that's, it's a deep wide receiver class this year, so there will be guys around in later rounds that they can go for. So that's it feels like this is the right position to do.
No shockers in the first one. So Arizona Cardinals going for Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver from Ohio State. No shocks again. Probably the best player in the whole draft. Probably one of the most exciting wide receivers we've been anticipating and waiting to come into the NFL for years, probably. And we've got to look at the big names that are in there currently with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Olave, Garrett Wilson, people like that. Now, Marvin Harrison is the one. obvious choice. I mean, they've got a few holes, the Cardinals, but they've got 2 first rounds.
Yeah, exactly. So they can sort out a lot of problems in this draft with the 2 first-round picks, and then they've got second as well. So it's like they can get themselves some good players here. Marvin Harrison, as we've said, and you just said, best wide receiver coming out this year. I think a lot of people think by quite a long way. I feel like there are a couple of other receivers that are decent, and you know we'll talk about them in a minute. But I just feel like Harrison is probably the most complete prospect to come out, and I think that's why it would be a bit of a crazy decision to pass up on bringing him in, especially considering that wide receiver core hasn't got a lot going for it at the moment. It's like Hollywood Brown is going to be a free agent. You've got Michael Wilson there. Rondale Moore is, I think, going to be a free agent as well. So it kind of feels like it is very much Trey McBride at tight end, and then not a lot else in the receiving core for the future. So yeah, Marvin Harrison, I think, is exactly who you want in there. And you know, maybe later on in the draft they will go for another receiver as well. But yeah, this is that they need something to excite the fans there.
Yeah, I think him going to a team that's already got an established quarterback as well really elevates him. He's not going to one of these teams that's, you know, he's learning with them. I think Kyler Murray is really going to excel with Marvin Harrison because he's, you know, 6'4". He's a big lad. I think he'll do really well with him. On to pick 5, another one that's been locked in by a lot of mock drafts. Everyone's going down this route. It's the Los Angeles Chargers taking Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. People are very excited about Brock Bowers, another high-end tight end prospect coming into you know, this position seems to, we've spoke about it over the last 2 years now. This position seems to become more popular in the draft over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by this at first because I've kind of been very much Malik Neighbors and sort of Rome Odunze is for the Chargers. You kind of felt like they were going to go wide receiver. You know, I know Keenan Allen would stay there, but Mike Williams is just injured all the time, and the rest of them are just kind of quite a step down compared to what they need to be for the Chargers. We, as we said, we've been doing the position videos. I went through the tight ends and so saw the tape on Brock Bowers and then went, yes, now I see why you're going to want to go for him. So, yeah, this doesn't shock me now, after looking at the tape. You've got Bowers, who just looks incredibly athletic, so strong, great in every department. Yeah, it's someone that you're going to want on. I can't imagine any NFL team that isn't going to want him on their team. He's just so good. And when you look at how, like you say, the tight end position has changed and how, you know, it used to be Travis Kelce and that was it. And then Mark Andrews started coming up. But now you've got a lot more athletic tight ends. You've got your Sam Laportas coming in. You've got people like Luke Musgrave at the Packers. You've got Trey McBride at the Cardinals. You know, these guys are a lot more athletic than maybe what some of the tight ends used to be of the past. And Brock Bowers could quite easily eclipse all of them and be the best one in the league quite quickly. So yeah, completely get that one.
Yeah, we see on there edge rusher, cornerback, offensive line question mark. I think it's a very strong edge rusher class for free agency, so I think they can address that there. I did a mock draft just for the Chargers because I was really excited to see who Harbaugh could get, and I went with Bowers with the first pick, and then I managed to get Kalen King at cornerback, who I'm really high on. He's dropped down a lot of boards. Dropping into the second round. So Kalen King in the second round, that covers the cornerback. I think he's a great prospect. And then I think they go Roman Wilson at wide receiver in the third round because obviously the Michigan connection, and you know, he's excelling massively in the Senior Bowl practices at the moment. So I think those connections, he's going to land there, and then they can go offensive line or running back even. The likes of Braylon Allen and Trey Benson and people like that are going to be available in the fourth, I think, as well. So it could be stacked with some really. They could have a really good draft this year.
Yeah. I think they've got quite a few picks, and they're in a position where they can sort of like change things up a little bit. And I think that's probably something that's been needed with the Chargers a little bit. It kind of feels like they've been going over the same routine over and over again, and just hoping that the story would change, and it just hasn't really happened. So yeah, but there's lots of room for them to make moves. So yeah, I think exciting. That's one thing. I mean, chaos is Jim Harbaugh. It's going to be absolute chaos, but it will be exciting, and it will sort of bring the Chargers into a bit more prominence, I think, in just the NFL in general.
Yeah, I also think they're going to have the edge in this draft and the next year's draft, just because Harbaugh's going to know all the big names, and he's going to have tried to recruit them or recruited them, and he's going to have seen them play against him and watched a lot of tape. So I think they're going to have a big advantage over the next 2 years with how good he is as well. So yeah, good pick. They could pick anything there, couldn't they? But I think Bowers is a good one. Okay, my team, the New York Giants, at pick number 6, taking Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. It was between two positions for me at what we picked here, and that was O-line or wide receiver. And I just can't help but think that wide receiver is a must. We do not have a wide receiver one. I think next year we'll be going into a lineup of Hyatt, who's like 6 foot, Slayton 6 foot, and Wan'Dale Robinson, who's 5'8". So I think, although Neighbors isn't the biggest guy, I think he's more of a guy that you can throw the ball at every down and know that he's going to catch it. He's not. I think Hyatt is a over-the-top speedster, one play, and Robinson's more of a gadget guy in the slot. So I think Neighbors could fill that position. Equally, I think Adunze could as well. So Adam, you think this is the right pick as well?
Yeah, so when I knew we were doing this, I went through team needs for everyone, and with the Giants, I kind of did fall down on O-line quite a bit. It did feel like that was something that did need quite a bit of help, and obviously running back. I mean, especially if Saquon goes, which it looks like, but you could do that later on in the draft. That wouldn't be so much of an issue for now. But yeah, wide receiver obviously is something. You've got a lot of wide receivers; they're just all the same, and so that's why you need to bring in someone different. I do kind of feel like Adunze maybe a little bit more suited to being a difference maker compared to Neighbors. I feel like although Neighbors has got the speed, he's not. I feel like you need a big-bodied guy, and I feel like Adunze would be a little bit better there. But yeah, I mean, I would argue Neighbors is the better receiver personally than Adunze. I would have him as my number 2 wide receiver, so therefore it makes sense to me that he's picked him. But yeah, I just feel for you specifically as a team, I feel like maybe a sort of a bigger bodied guy is what you need.
Yeah, definitely. I moved away from O-line with this because we have a left tackle. There's no problem up there. We're sorted. He's great. We're sorted at center. We sorted that out last year, and I'm unsure whether they give Evan Neal another shot at right tackle or if they move him to guard. But equally, if that's what we're looking at, there's so many good players at guard and tackle this year that we can address that and get good value. Whereas I think there's 3 wide receivers in this draft class that are just a cut above the rest.
Yeah.
So you may as well snag one at 6 and then worry about the O-line later on and maybe in free agency as well. So I think that's why I moved away from O-line, and definitely don't think running quarterback at this point is the right decision for us with Daniel Jones' contract. I think take a gamble on one of the guys in the 6th or 7th. And I was talking to you about that. I'd take a gamble on Spencer Rattler or Joe Milton later on. Pick number 7 is the Tennessee Titans, going for Joe Alt, the tackle from Notre Dame. It was always it's going to be Joe or Fashanu, isn't it? You can't go wrong with either of those two. So right decision for the Titans?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a big problem, wasn't it? That the O line just has been kind of obliterated over the last few years. It just isn't of the same standard as what it was. The first thing that I came up with was O line and offensive tackle. Definitely, I personally think that Alt is the best one that's in there, and I just think he's this massive guy that actually is shockingly quite agile and quite an ability to sort of move quite quickly. And he's had so many reps for Notre Dame over the last couple of years as well. So he's quite experienced, and it just kind of feels like this is a guy who can make a difference from day one, in an area that they desperately need that help for. So yeah, really liked this one as the pick for the Titans.
Yeah, as Mel says in there, the rookie second round pick, Will Levis, showed enough promise to get a chance at starting quarterback for 2024. So, if he's right in that, shoring up that O-line, they were last in the league in interceptions. Okay. They've got a lot of holes.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of it, and obviously, like with Vrabel not being there, things might go slightly differently compared to what we're used to with the Titans. But yeah, it just feels like the obvious move.
And pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons going for Dallas Turner. Noted him down as an outside linebacker. I think a lot of people have got him as an edge rusher as well from Alabama. I'm going to read on a little bit to see what he says about it. But first, thoughts for you, because I think maybe one, I don't think Dallas Turner's my big board top player at that position. And two, do you think they could have gone quarterback here, or do you think they go for a veteran?
So I think that I've seen Dallas Turner mocked here quite a lot for the Falcons through different people. I kind of get it. I think that it's a position that they can deal with. I did have I mean, I think there are other positions as well, but I do think that it's kind of almost like that they've picked the guy that they feel is the best one, and it does feel like Dallas Turner is the one that a lot of people are going for here. When it comes to the quarterback, I think they're going to go for someone already in the NFL. I think once you've got past the top 3, I do feel like there is a drop off, and I think that people are just not going to want to go for it at this point. I think they're either going to trade up and go big for one of the top 3, or they'll take a veteran. Russell Wilson's out there. Justin Fields, we reckon, will be out there. Kirk Cousins potentially could be out there, as has been said there. And there's more as well that could be around. So I think they will go for something like that. Justin Fields does kind of scream as the obvious one, I must say.
Yeah, I think the value that you're probably going to get Justin Fields, I think you could probably get him for a second round pick. So you're going to keep hold of this pick and get Justin Fields. I think with the others, maybe you're giving up a lot more for Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson, and I think the contract's going to be a lot higher for those two as well. So it makes sense for Justin Fields to be the suitor for me there. I'm just maybe a bit higher on a couple of the edge rushers, maybe a bit more than Dallas Turner, but equally outstanding player. Can't go wrong there with him. Pick number 9 is the Chicago Bears. Picking Rome Odunze, the wide receiver from Washington. Right decision here as well, again, isn't it? A lot of people have talked about them potentially sticking with Fields and going Marvin Harrison, but you can get Rome Odunze here at 9. And if that's the case, we've just spoke about him being the possibility to be the 6th pick at the Giants. So the 9th pick, this is great value.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. The only thing that I did sort of think about, maybe O-line, that you could go for, just purely because you want to protect your new quarterback. But again, this is kind of just a different way of looking at it. This is basically like, okay, I'll go. It's kind of the same decision the Bengals had, wasn't it, with Jamar Chase? It's like, do you go out and protect your new quarterback with an O-line guy, or do you go and get yourself a weapon for the quarterback? I think that Odunze would be great. I mean, can you imagine having DJ Moore on one side and Odunze on the other? So it's like, what more could you want? You've got Cole Kmet there, who I know a lot of people don't think is the greatest tight end, but I think he's more than capable of sticking around. And he's on a contract, like I think it's like a 3-year deal, so he's just going into his second year of that. So yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like a good spot to take one of these top 3 wide receivers that we all are coming out and saying, there's Marvin Harrison, there's the next 2, and then there's the rest, sort of thing. And it's like that's so it seems like a good move. And you've got yourself your new quarterback and another weapon for him with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. It's pretty decent.
Yeah, I think their O-line was better than what we expected it to be last year, and I think they're all coming back. They're all going to be there. Just Lucas Patrick, I think the centers might be a free agent. They could probably bring him back. And I thought that bit of business to get Montez Sweat for the value they got him at was absolute steal, because we would be saying here right now that they need to address that defense otherwise. And they've got someone who's worth the first round any day just there in the pick. So also, as we've said, big edge free agency. Mel said there, I also thought about Liatu Latu, who's the best pass rusher in this class. But, you know, they've got Montez Sweat. And like I say, they could potentially, technically, they could go after Chase Young if they wanted. He's going to be a free agent, isn't he? They could have Montez Sweat and Chase Young again. That would be funny. We move on. Pick 10 is the New York Giants. They've gone for Olu Fashanu, the tackle from Penn State. A lot of people had him pegged last year as being the number 1 tackle, and then he returned. Had a couple of injury worries where he's been at college, but definitely the number 2 or 1 tackle in this class.
Yeah, I think this is it's an obvious pick. You got to remember, I know obviously it didn't come to anything this season, but you got to remember that Aaron Rodgers is there. The whole point of Aaron Rodgers being there is that they're going for it. So you've got to make a decision. You either go for a weapon or you go for protection for him. They're your 2 options. With the top 3 wide receivers gone, you go for protection. And so Olu Fashanu is there. And yeah, I mean, as we've said, we've seen him now for a couple of years. He's looked great. I would say Joe personally, but got no issue with Fashanu at all. And yeah, it's definitely one that it's an obvious move, and it's what you've got to do, because you really have to give Rodgers every possible capability of doing something this season, because it could potentially be his last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they've had a lot of issues on that O-line last year as well. They had to move Elijah Vera-Tucker to right tackle from guard. Joe Tippmann they brought in. I think they don't want to be moving him around too much. And Mekhi Becton, as Mel's just said right there, is hitting free agency, so they might not bring him back. So you've hit the nail on the head. You've got to keep Rodgers upright. You've got to keep him in. So it's got to be Fashanu at this pick. Pick 11, the Minnesota Vikings going for Nate Wiggins, the cornerback from Clemson. I just mentioned Andrew Booth in there. I was like, didn't they take a cornerback from Clemson last year? How do you feel about this pick? Do you think this is the Vikings' biggest need, or do you think you would have gone somewhere else with this one? Do you think Mal's got this one right?
So I found this one a little bit odd. I kind of felt like defense was, I mean, if Kirk Cousins goes, then obviously we're going to be looking at a quarterback, I would have thought. But I just kind of felt like I get corner. I would have thought maybe edge personally would have been a better value myself. I mean, I think Nate Wiggins looks really good. A lot of people have come out and said that he's one of the better corners going into this draft. To me, it just felt like sort of I mean, they need edge. They need maybe even like a defensive tackle, actually, thinking about it. Someone on the line to just kind of help them. And it's someone that you could get who's, you know, we haven't had any defensive tackles go off the board yet, have we? And you just sort of think you could get the premium position guy here. So I found it a little strange that he went for corner, but at the same time, they did give up a lot of points in the season, and so I can understand why he's gone for basically any defensive position in order to help them. I think I probably would have gone for the line though.
Yeah. All of their secondary are coming back, aren't they? They've got no
Yeah.
free agency in there. They've got Byron Murphy. They've got Harrison Smith. So they've got Andrew Booth. I mean, he's still got time to develop. I don't think you can write him off just yet. Mel says he hasn't quite figured things out. But yeah, they're losing potentially Darnell Hunter. They haven't really got massive names on that D line. So yeah, I probably would have gone front seven rather than secondary with this pick.
But if the Vikings make the wrong pick, that's fine because I'm a Packers fan, so it's all good. You know?
Yeah, you want this as well. He also
well
says
done, Mel.
He also says there, could the Vikings take a quarterback for sure? Kirk Cousins is a free agent, and I don't think rookie 5th round Jaron Hall will be the long-term guy.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah.
If it is quarterback they pick at this, you think it's Penix, Nix, McCarthy?
Personally, I would say Penix out of what's left. But I know that McCarthy is getting a lot of hype as someone who should be in the first round. So Nix has struggled a little bit, hasn't he, in the Senior Bowl at the moment? But yeah, I think to be honest, once you get past them first three, it kind of comes down. Again, they might be a candidate to trade up if they do lose Cousins and really go for it. Because you know, I mean, the 49ers didn't they? They traded up from 12 to 3. So it's like they're 11th, so they could do it. It's certainly possible to go up that high.
Pick 12 is the Denver Broncos. They go for Liatu Latu, the edge from UCLA, not outside linebacker. I love Latu's ability to bend the edge and get after the quarterback. Yeah, this guy's insane. He's brilliant. Just a machine all year. Right decision for you?
So I haven't looked at the edges yet. I haven't gone through them, but I believe hasn't he had a lot of injury issues? Is that the problem with him? That there's been a lot of chat about that he's had injury problems.
Yeah, there's notes in there that say his medical checkups will show, but I think he's been there. He's been okay all year. Had a very productive season. I mean, Jared Verse for me would probably be still.
Yeah.
He's for me versus my top edge rusher, which is why I mentioned it earlier about Dallas Turner. But I've got no issue with this one. I think he's had a phenomenal year, and you've got to sometimes put injury worries behind you and just take the risk. I think you can't just anybody can get injured. You could have no injuries whatsoever through your college career and then get injured in your first year of the NFL. It's one of them. If he clears at the combine and all his medicals are good, then he's good to go.
Yeah. So purely from a team perspective, edge, it's an area that they can have. That's fine. That's not a problem. I mean, obviously they are another team that are looking for a quarterback. After what's happened with Russell Wilson, he may stay, he may not. But I think they would probably want to move him on, and Sean Payton would want to get one of his guys. I know there's been rumours out there that he wants to move up. He wants to get into the top 3 and take one of them 3 quarterbacks. So he's definitely one that I think it wouldn't be shocking if they did make a move for someone. But yeah, I mean, edge was one of the needs that I put, not a massive need, but it was one of the ones that sort of came out in the top sort of like 4 or 5 areas. I kind of like the idea of him going for corner. Maybe I think that would be a decent spot for him, and then just defensive tackle was the other one as well that I kind of thought would be just to bulk it up. But I think he's a very good player, so I can understand why you'd want to go there.
Do you think they're fully sold at wide receiver? Cortland Sutton getting on a bit, having injuries. Marvin Mims didn't get involved loads, and then there was lots of talks about them trading Jerry Jeudy. So do you think that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are. That will very much depend on free agency, won't it? I mean, obviously, like you say, Cortland Sutton could be on his way out. Jerry Jeudy, the season didn't exactly end well with Jerry Jeudy and Sean Payton. I think Mims could potentially do something just because Payton actually picked him. So I think that's a good start for him. But the rest of them, it is a bit concerning. Obviously, if that does happen, then you would think wide receiver would be where they would go, because they do need to bring probably some depth to the position.
So any mention? There's no mention of quarterback whatsoever in that bit. Okay. Pick 13, the Las Vegas Raiders. Terrion Arnold, the cornerback from Alabama. This is another spot in which I thought about slotting in the fourth quarterback in this class, as the Raiders likely move on from Jimmy G this offseason. And the rookie fourth-round pick, Aiden O'Connell, struggled after early flashes. Do you think that this is the right decision for them? Do you think they should go corner? It's another team with quite a few holes, I think. And there's all the quarterbacks still on the board, apart from the top three.
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, corner is one that you could have. I haven't actually got corner as their one of their biggest issues. I actually thought their defense turned up pretty well last year. I thought they did okay. Obviously, you always want depth, so I can understand that. But for me, I think quarterback is a huge issue for them. I think O-line would be useful as well, actually, for them. I think that would help in the run game. I don't feel like Josh Jacobs was as good as what he was. And I think part of that might have been because of Jacobs, but also because of the O-line. I just didn't think was fantastic. So to me, I feel like O-line and quarterback are their two biggest needs. I would probably at this point be having a punt on someone like Penix, I would have thought. So I'm a little surprised that he has gone down this route.
Yeah, I think I've just had a quick look at their roster just to see whether they were all right at cornerback. Jack Jones, and they took Chris Smith last year, who I thought was decent. And then their safety, they're all good as well. Their secondary is quite solid. O-line, they've got three guys. Don't know whether it mentions it. They've got, no, he doesn't mention it. So they've got their right tackle, their right guard, and their center all hitting free agency this offseason. It's just Colton Miller, really, they're going to be keeping of a big name. So I think O-line here with some, we've only had two off the board, and there's still some big names left. Whether he's thinking there's that many big names left on the board, I'll get value in the second round, I'll leave it. But do you even, your thoughts on this? For the cornerbacks, Terrion Arnold, absolutely fantastic cornerback. Do you think Kool-Aid McKinstry's better? The other cornerback from Bama?
I think there's a few, isn't there, in this class at corner? It feels like there's about 5 or 6 that are really, really good, and then it drops off a little bit. Yeah, I would probably go more towards Kool-Aid McKinstry over Arnold personally, but I think that you've got someone in Arnold who's going to be a quality corner and is going to be more than capable. So I wouldn't blame anyone too much for going for one over the other. But I just feel like it's not a position they desperately need.
I think this is another landing spot for Russell Wilson.
Yes, yeah, potentially. Although I don't know how that would go down well, moving from Denver to the Raiders. But there you go.
I'm not sure I could see Kirk Cousins there.
No.
What's your next option after that? Maybe
Justin Fields.
Well, I think he's going to Falcons. Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
Law Baker Mayfield in. Pick 14, the New Orleans Saints pick Brian Thomas Jr., the wide receiver from LSU. Odd pick. I've not even read yet. but I'm thinking they're good at wide receiver, aren't they? They're fine. Derek Carr had an up and down debut season in New Orleans, sizable contracts. Yeah, they're not going to move off of Derek Carr. I think that's fine anyway. I still think Derek Carr's a decent quarterback. Chris Olave is a star, back-to-back seasons, 1,000 yards. Yeah, they're losing Michael Thomas, but they've got Shaheed. I think this is one of Mel Kiper's maybe second mistake here. Do you think that although Brian Thomas is an absolute stud and an incredible wide receiver, I don't think this is a need?
No, I was surprised by this one. I have to say, I haven't got wide receiver on the list at all of biggest needs. I can understand why you might want to bring one in later on in the draft. And given the fact that you've got such a strong wide receiver class this year, feels like going later is the way forward for them. Personally, O-line, I think that would do more for Derek Carr. I think the O-line being improved is the way forward. And so this did feel a little bit strange. As you say, Olave, very good. Shaheed can step up and has shown flashes that he can step up. Even if Michael Thomas does move on, you can get one later on. So I just found it a little bit strange at this point in the draft. I actually think they're a very good trade back candidate. The Saints, really. I think they might do that. But yeah, not sure on this one. Don't quite get it. And there's a few more teams that will be looking for wide receivers before the Saints, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they, with the edge rushers that are still on the board, trying to find a replacement for Cam Jordan, who's now 34, would be, Jared Verse here at this pick would be sensible for me because they haven't got many youngsters on. I know they got Isaiah Foskey, didn't they, last year in the draft, but he's not really a high-end edge rusher like we're talking about Verse might be. So I thought, yeah, they might try and get an edge rusher here, maybe.
Obviously not.
It doesn't even mention it. Okay. Indianapolis Colts taking Keon Coleman, the wide receiver from Florida State. You won't be up for that because you don't like Keon Coleman. One of the top edge rushers could be in play for the Colts. I'm leaning towards a like-for-like replacement for Michael Pittman. I think they bring Pittman back. Why would you not bring Pittman back?
Yeah, I think this pick has purely been made just because he thinks Pittman's good. He obviously feels that Pittman is going to be able to get more money elsewhere. That's basically what he's saying, isn't it? And that may well be true. And if he does, then I do think they probably do need a big-bodied wide receiver. And Coleman is kind of the only one who kind of really fits that bill. I'm not a massive fan, as you said, but I can understand why you would do that if you lose Pittman. Personally, I would say get your money out of the piggy bank and pay Michael Pittman because you know what you've got with him. So I think that's what you want. And also, I just think defensive tackle and edge again, I think are probably bigger needs. The issue with the Colts this year was that they were hitting the over like an insane amount of times of their games. They were in really high scoring games all season long. And that was partly because their defense couldn't stop anybody. So I think defensive tackle and edge would be a much more sensible thing. And as you just said about Jared Verse going to the Saints, he would be ideal for going to the Colts.
I think the Colts have got some decent edge rushers. I think Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam
I just feel like you can always have another one. That's the problem with edge. You always want another.
At this point, I made a point in the year that when Grover Stewart, the defensive tackle, went down, that's when they started to struggle on defense. And he's a free agent this year. So if they bring Pittman back and pay him, and they can't pay some of the other people, because I think both their is it Kenny Moore and someone else in the secondary they're going to have to pay as well. They might want to. I don't know. I just think maybe you could look at defensive tackle at this point. There is some really strong first-round talent at that position. So
yeah.
I don't think they need to be worried about wide receiver, especially what they've got. Alec Pierce, Josh Downs. You're good, sorted.
Yeah, if they keep Pittman, then like I said, I think this has just purely been done with the thought process of Pittman going, but I just don't see why you would get rid of him.
Pick 16, the Seattle Seahawks take J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. Adam, what do you think about this pick? Do you think this is the right decision? Do you think he's the right guy? Do you think he should be picked over Penix and Nix?
No. To be honest, I'd probably have Penix, I think, as my number 4 guy, personally. I understand why some people like McCarthy. I think but he's kind of been a bit of a game manager, isn't he? Really, for Michigan, he hasn't really been amazing. I would probably go for Penix myself. I don't know if I would go for quarterback myself. I think Geno Smith has been okay. I don't think he's been great, but I think he was all right. And you could probably go out and get yourself a quarterback that would be a little bit better. I think they could do with some other areas. Nothing. Like, I don't really feel like the Seahawks have any massive holes, but I just feel like they could do with just generally a bit more depth in a lot of places. And yeah, I mean, if Smith goes, which is entirely possible that he could, then I just feel like it's the wrong guy that they've gone for.
Yeah, I think maybe he's put, I don't know whether it says it in there. Yeah, it does. I think maybe he's put JJ McCarthy in there over the other guys because he's so young and the other guys are older. And then you're thinking maybe they're thinking about keeping Geno Smith and putting McCarthy behind him to see if he develops, because Drew Lock's a free agent. I can't see them bringing Drew Lock back. So yeah, looking at their team, I think they are sorted at most spots. They could do with strengthening slightly, but I'd probably bring Penix in here. He's from played at Washington, so he's good for it, isn't he? He's good for the weather, good for that side. So
yeah. And the other thing is, it's not like Penix is 30, is it? I mean, he's not like ridiculously old. He might be a couple of years older, but it's like at the end of the day, if he's better, then that's the pick to make, isn't it?
If he's better and plays for 10 seasons,
Yeah.
we'll see, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, all playing long periods of time, then it's fine. It's not a problem. Apparently he's been cleared as well of all of his previous injuries that he had when he was at Indiana. So he's all good. He's good to go. Not even got injury worries. Jacksonville Jaguars. We need to get through this. Come on, we're only at pick 17. Cooper DeJean, the Jacksonville Jaguars, pick 17, the cornerback from Iowa. Yeah, I think this is probably the right decision for Jacksonville. They let go some of their cornerbacks and trying to rebuild it there. And Cooper DeJean, does it mention his injury? Because he's had an injury, hasn't he? Fractured his leg. Does it mention it? Can't see Mel Kiper. But yeah, they reckon he's going to be fit, possibly for the combine. So no worries there. But Cooper DeJean's big guy, very quick, very talented. Like him a lot.
Yeah, I think anywhere on the defense, to be honest. I think there's a concern with Josh Allen. I think he's up for free agency, so that is a concern they may need to replace there. But if he does stay, then yeah, DeJean, I think, would be a really good guy to get in there. A lot of people have him as their number 1 corner. So yeah, I think he would be ideal for them.
Pick number 18 is Cincinnati Bengals taking J.C. Latham, the offensive tackle from Alabama. Yeah, absolutely another stud tackle here coming off the board at pick 18. That's great value. Making sure Burrow doesn't get injured, I'm guessing, is key here.
Again, I think they're in that situation which they were with Chase. It's kind of like, do you go for the O-line or the wide receiver? I mean, T. Higgins is a free agent. Tyler Boyd is a free agent. I think, is it Trenton Irwin? I think is a free agent as well. So they need to get wide receivers in. It feels like wide receiver and O-line, again, is kind of the situations that they need to improve on. I get why he's gone for the O-line because obviously it protects Burrow, but I mean, this kind of almost feels a little bit like this would be a great place for Brian Thomas to turn up.
Yeah.
So that kind of made more sense to me there. But obviously he's gone in this, so yeah, O-line kind of makes sense. And JC Latham has looked really good, so I think that he's definitely one to go for.
Yeah, fully agree there. I think if Thomas is free there, I think Jamar Chase might be Joe Burrow might be going, no, we're taking him.
Yeah.
Hey, finally, Los Angeles Rams take Jared Verse, the edge rusher from Florida State. The Rams got outstanding play from the two rookies in Byron Young and Kobe Turner. Yeah. How do you feel about this pick? Do you think that's an area that the Rams need? Do you think edge rusher is the way forward for them?
Yeah, again, I think the defense just generally is probably where they need to go. Just anywhere on that defense, in that defensive side of the ball. I think offensively they looked very good. They've got their running back, they've got their young wide receiver, they've got their old wide receiver. You know, they've got more than enough on the offense to be able to do stuff. So yeah, I think to me it feels like the defense is the way forward. I mean, it's amazing that he's still here at this point, personally. But the fact that he is, I think you'd be crazy not to take him. So yeah, it's a good pick for them.
Pick 20, Freddie's Pittsburgh Steelers taking Kamara Lassiter, the cornerback from Georgia. Do you think they go corner again? Joey Porter looked good.
Yeah, he did look good, but it was pretty much Joey Porter and Patrick Peterson, wasn't it? And that's kind of, there's not really a lot else. Same old story with the Steelers. We'll go defense and we'll go corner. Seems to be a popular thing over the last few years. Lassiter looks like a good choice. So yeah, I can understand why they've gone for it. Again, to me, I feel like it's O-line and defense when it comes to them. So yeah.
Just having a look. Yeah, everybody else, their other two cornerbacks are going into free agency, so we'll just leave them Porter and, as Mel says, 33-year-old Patrick Peterson. Still no Kool-Aid McKinstry gone yet. Not seen his name. Miami Dolphins with pick 21, taking Troy Fatanu, the guard from Washington. I think he played guard and tackle, can't he? Big guy, really good, really like him. Do you feel that O-line is where they need to address? Their defense had struggles.
Yeah, I mean, I did feel like O-line is certainly one that they need to address, and defense, as you said, is another one that does need sorting out a little bit. I think O-line, you've got to try and, you know, you're probably going to put your money into Tua, I would have thought, so you're going to want to protect him. That kind of makes the most sense. But yeah, defense as well. I think if you could have done something with the defense, and that would have been great as well. But yeah, I can understand why you would go for this pick.
Yeah, the whole O-line, as I think Miles just pointed out there, virtually the whole line's hitting free agency.
Yeah.
Pick 22, Fuaga, the tackle from Oregon State. Let's see what he puts it. Eagles were a disaster at the end of the season, having several roster questions. Right tackle, Lane Johnson. I thought cornerback, surely cornerback here. I mean, Lane Johnson, 34 is not ridiculously old for. And Kelsey, well, he's not going to replace Kelsey, is he? Yeah, surely corner's the right pick here.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the fact that McKinstry's available as well. It kind of feels like that is the way forward for them at this point. I do really like Fuaga. I think he looks very good. But to me, I kind of get why he's gone O-line, because it's one of them things where it's a little bit like they are all getting a little bit older. So you could make that argument that they need to go down there. But they were getting beaten so much over the top, and the corners were getting beaten all the time last year. And that was the real issue for them. It's like the reason that they struggled so much was that the offense had to be on fire all the time in order to be able to win a game. So, of course, when it wasn't, that was the issue. Yeah, corner seems obvious. People like McKinstry being available seems obvious, because it feels like there's not many corners left now as well. like of the real top guys. So that's why it kind of makes more sense to me.
Yeah, you've got 33-year-old Slay and 30-year-old Bradbury
Yeah.
chasing around 22-year-olds.
Mhm.
We saw them get burnt. It was at the back end of the season. They're going to be knackered. They're going to be tired. So
Yeah.
they brought in Eli Ricks and Keely Ringo last year, but yeah, I think they definitely need to look at solid replacements at there before they start looking at O-line. Myalita is still good. Cam Jurgens is there. Landon Dickerson. I think they're fine. Houston Texans taking Jazane Newton from Illinois, the first tackle off the board. Happy with this pick? I think he'll probably stay. I think this is going to be one of their needs. Yeah, I think they've got a lot on the defense, more on the defense than the offense going into free agency, haven't they?
Yeah, so again, the defensive tackle was one of the main areas that I had. I thought O-line is another one that they could go down, but there's no reason why they couldn't go defensive tackle here. Newton looks like a really exciting player, and I think we felt that the offense was working probably better than the defense a little bit when it came to the Texans this year. So yeah, really like the look of Newton and think that it's a really good one in a need where, like you say, they've got quite a few that are going to become free agents. So it feels like a good move.
Yeah, bar Will Anderson as well. I know Jonathan Greenard's obviously a free agent, but they're looking quite old at that. Sheldon Rankins and Jerry Hughes. So yeah, need to get younger there. Dallas Cowboys taking Jordan Morgan, the offensive tackle from Arizona. I really like Jordan Morgan. I think he's brilliant. Again, this is how we're talking pick 24. I'm still buzzing about the tackles. They're coming off the board. Do you think O-line is going to be the main pick for the Cowboys? I can't see them going O-line.
Well, I mean, it seems like a logical pick.
Yeah.
Which isn't something that the Cowboys do very often in the first round. But it feels like it's the one that they should make, because the biggest problem they had was that the run game just wasn't working in the same way that it was in previous years. Now, a lot of people will come out and say that's because Zeke wasn't there. That's because Tony Pollard isn't a, like 3-down back and all of that. But the fact is that maybe the O-line not being quite as good, because you can't really say that Dak and CeeDee Lamb were struggling. This is the thing. So it's kind of like the receiving game was working well. So why, in that respect, the run game should work pretty well as well. And the other thing is that this, McCarthy came out and said that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to run the ball more, and it just didn't really happen. So I think maybe improving the O-line would help in that respect. But yeah, I mean, defensively as well, they could do with some help. Defensive tackle and edge, I think they could do with a little bit of help on that. But I can understand why he's gone for Morgan, who, as you say, looks like a decent offensive tackle and someone that would be able to make a difference for him.
I've been saying for the last 2 seasons, if Tyron Smith or Zach Martin get injured, Dallas Cowboys season's pretty much over. So it's about time they addressed this position. So I just don't know whether they like a flashy piece there. Pick 25, your Green Bay Packers taking Kingsley Suamati. I know he's at the Senior Bowl, isn't he? He's doing well at the Senior Bowl, isn't he? From BYU, another tackle. Didn't think this would be the next tackle off the board. I've not got a first round grade on him. I got a second round grade on him. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of him. I have to say, I think it's predominantly there's a few other tackles that I've seen more of that we feel is going to be more likely to be a first rounder. It is a need. I do think that the offensive line does need a bit of help. Bakhtiari, who knows what's going to happen with him, and also I just kind of feel like just the O-line. The way that we have the O-line, it feels very sort of like plug and play, like anyone can go anywhere. So he seems like someone who would be quite good in that respect. But yeah, I can understand why they've gone O-line. I think the other area that they need, and they're not going to do it in the first round because they never do, positions like safety, linebacker, that's kind of what they really need to be looking at, I think. But yeah, I can understand why we've gone for someone like this.
I've got a feeling, because I've been trying to keep up with the Senior Bowl. I think he's been playing guard at Senior Bowl. I don't think he's been
Okay.
playing tackle. Corley McKinstry is still on the board. I think you need help at cornerback, right?
Yeah. I mean, corner is another area that would be useful. As I say, personally, I think it's more sort of like that safety position is what we need more. But again, it just feels like it's not so much a first rounder. But yeah, corner would be good. We could do with that. But no, I can understand. I think O-line is something as well that would help.
Pick 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Chop Robinson, the edge rusher from Penn State. I really like Chop Robinson. Think he's brilliant. Let's have a quick look. I think they'll bring back Baker Mayfield. Mike Evans, free agent. Levante David, free agent. Devin White, free agent. Antoine Winfield, free agent. Do you think edge rusher is the one they need, or do you think wide receiver is the one that they should be looking at in this?
Yeah, there was a thing that I read today where they were saying that they expect Mike Evans to be getting 25 to 30 million a year. I'm not sure the Bucks are going to be able to afford him, and so that's an issue. I think wide receiver is one that they probably should be looking to go for, considering if that was to happen. Obviously it hasn't, so that's probably why he hasn't gone wide receiver. But yeah, I feel like other than that, I mean, you've got some significant experience coming out of that team there with free agents. Now you could get some of them back in, but I think it's going to be tough. So yeah, I feel like linebackers might be the way forward for him.
Yeah, linebacker. That Chop Robinson's an edge rusher.
Yeah.
I think all the linebackers, there's some really talented linebackers. I think none of them will go in the first round. And Levante David and White are both linebackers. I think their D line was strong, wasn't it? They had that was their thing last year, putting pressure on the quarterbacks. Logan Hall's young, Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Shaq Barrett. I think they need to address some of the areas first, and then wide receiver here, linebacker with the next one, I think. Pick number 27, Tyler Gunton, offensive tackle from Oklahoma. Another guy that's booming up the boards from his Senior Bowl. Apparently, he's the big standout guy from the Senior Bowl practices so far. I think he's good. I think he's probably borderline at the bottom. Maybe my sort of 10th best tackle, maybe on my board. Not sure. A lot of people have got him in the first round. Do you think Cardinals double dipping on offensive players is the right decision, or do you think they need to address the defense at some point?
I think it's not a bad decision. I think it's something that would help. You need to keep Kyler Murray fit, don't you? So I mean, you want to keep him upright, and so offensive line kind of makes sense. Guyton's been getting a load of hype, but even before the Senior Bowl, he was getting a lot of hype. I think he'll go higher than this personally, just purely from the hype. I think he seems like he's someone who tests quite well, so I think he'll probably have a decent combine, and that'll push him up maybe a little bit more. Yeah, they do need to sort their defense out. That is something that they need to do. But I think that they're probably going to be looking to go for the offense first and try and make them a more exciting prospect for the next couple of years first, and then go into the defense afterwards.
Just a few more picks left, gone over what we usually do. The Buffalo Bills taking A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas. I think, wow, without even reading it, Gabe Davis hits free agency. Stephon Diggs hasn't had a 100-yard game since mid-October. I think they need to go wide receiver here. Is A.D. Mitchell the right guy? He's a big guy.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense because of that. He is a big guy, and it is something that they probably want. I remember having a conversation after the Bills game with Byron, our friend who's in our dynasty league, who who part of the franchise tag and has done stuff for us. He's a Bills fan, and he was very much like, we need to go wide receiver first round, get a big one, a decent name sort of thing, rather than wait. So I can understand why that's something that I think they might go for. They have struggled. Gabe Davis has been very hit and miss, so I don't see him coming back. So yeah, wide receiver makes sense. There's a lot of wide receivers though that are still on the board, and I don't know if this guy's necessarily the one to go for at this point. There's so many more, but yeah, I can understand just purely from a. They haven't had a real sort of 6 foot plus guy for a long time, have they, at the Bills? So maybe that's the logic of the, bigger guys concentrate more on the run game, and so they become more of a red zone threat and rather than a speed kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of looking at it, I think they're sold with Shakir at slot.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of slot guys maybe above Mitchell. I think Troy Franklin's still quite tall, isn't he? Troy Franklin. Who else would
A
be
lot
there?
of these guys are quite tall, aren't they? The wide receivers. None of them are like really, really tiny. So it's like even your Brian Thomases. Everyone goes, "Oh God, he's a bit smaller," but he's still 6 foot plus, and it's like he's not that small.
Yeah, so I think the trouble is, bar maybe AD Mitchell and maybe Xavier Leggett. I think the rest maybe like slot guys, and I think that's why he's put in there. But yeah, there is some more talented receivers. Pick number 29 is.
Here's one of them.
There we go. Kansas City Chiefs. Troy Franklin. I think everybody's got a wide receiver in here. If they get Troy Franklin here at this point, they're sorted, aren't they? Rashee Rice and Troy Franklin. I think that's a dream for Mahomes, isn't it?
Yeah, so obviously this has been done before for the championship games, which is why they're 29th in this. But yeah, wide receiver, it does feel like it's an obvious one that they do want to go for. I do think maybe defensive tackle is one that they should probably look at as well. But wide receiver is what they need because it is just Rashee Rice, isn't it? Really, the rest of them are really not of the talent that they need to be. And so Troy Franklin feels like, yeah, I mean, when we did the wide receiver video, we had Franklin above the likes of Mitchell. So yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like an obvious choice here.
He's a really exciting prospect. I think he could do brilliant things. I think, yeah, they're going to have great talent there. It fits the bill for the Chiefs as well. I think it's the way he plays fits the way they play as well. Pick 30, the Detroit Lions taking Quinion Mitchell, a guy that I hadn't seen loads of, being from Toledo. And then it's the only name I'm hearing now. Apparently, it will bring Senior Bowl up again. Apparently, shutting down every single wide receiver he's coming up against. We'll have more to say about him, I'm sure, when we talk about our cornerback prospects. You think Lions cornerback, it's got to be the right decision? That's where they were burnt this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think defensively was their big problem. They just couldn't stop the pass over the top. Kind of similar to the Steelers in a way, and that was their main issue. Corner is something they need to address. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be getting this guy in this sort of spot. Just with the hype that's going on at the moment, it's like he seems to be the guy. A lot of people are almost coming out and saying that he's the #1 corner now in the class. It's crazy the amount of hype that he's had over the last few weeks. And I don't see why that's going to stop, because obviously, like, if you can do it at like a Senior Bowl where it's like lots of drills, he's going to be great then, isn't he, at the combine? You just know that that's what's going to happen. So I think he's going to have a good combine and it will just go up the board even more. But yeah, corner is definitely one that they need to address. And so it's a good spot for him.
Yeah, I suppose this is the thing with where the guys are at the smaller colleges. You don't get to see a lot of them. So, yeah, Corley McKinstry is still on the board though. So if this guy does fly up, he's still there. And who have we got left? I can't see anybody else taking a corner. Oh no, there's another corner. Baltimore Ravens taking Ennis Rackstraw from Missouri. Again, I've got Kool-Aid higher than him on my board. I think I've got him at like ninth on my cornerback rankings. Do you think Ravens go corner? Do you think that's what they need? Or I think they might need to try and replace one of their, not going to be able to bring all of their defensive front seven back, are they?
No, I had defensive tackle as the main one to go for in the first round. I do have corner down as one of their sort of like 4 or 5 needs that they do. So I do think corner is one they can go for. But for me, yeah, the front seven, you're not going to get everyone back, and so I feel like that's the way forward. And also it will kind of, because I think they probably will try and bring quite a few of them back. I think they probably could do with getting a little bit younger as well. So I think that's why defensive tackle would make more sense.
Yeah, I think so as well. And there's still some massive names available for them at this point, rather than going for a later down the list cornerback. And I was listening to some guys talking about the cornerback class. Although there's a load of great cornerbacks in this class, none of them are of sort of Sauce Gardner ability. So the class is starting lower down the list than what it was. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of different front seven players here, stronger value for them. And pick 32, the San Francisco 49ers taking Amaris Mims, the tackle from Georgia. I mean, they can go where they want with this pick, surely.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I did have offensive tackle as one of the ones that I thought it would be worth them going for, I have to say. Mims is an interesting one. When I had a look at the O-line guys, and Mims is it seems like he hasn't really played that much. He seems like
he's getting injured.
Yeah, so he's definitely one that is very much about his progression and the potential that he has, but he is huge. He's an absolute unit of a guy, and so he would be ideal for the 49ers for what they want. And yeah, so it says they're 6'7", 340 pounds. He's gonna stop pretty much everyone. So he's a big guy, and it's a potential pick. However, if you're in the Super Bowl, they're the sort of picks that you need to make, because it's like it might happen, it might not, but if it does happen, then you've got an offensive lineman there for many years to come, and it's like you're not going to get the best, like the real top O-line guy, because you're too far down the board. So yeah, he looks like one that's definitely worth taking a gamble on.
Yeah, I think Mel's hit the nail on the head there. He's going traits of a future Pro Bowler. I think, why not go to the 49ers? That completes the board, Adam. Let's just remove it from there. Yep, so that's our first mock the mock. Really enjoy going through these players, seeing who people have got, how they value the players over what we've got on our prospects lists. Couple of no Kool-Aid McKinstry at all. Is that a bit of a shock for you that he's not there?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that he didn't get in. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, about Kool-Aid McKinstry over the whole college season, and it just seems to have dipped off a little bit going into this sort of off season now. And maybe for whatever reason, maybe he doesn't test very well or something like that. Who knows? But for whatever reason, they're not so keen. So yeah, a little bit of a surprise. Loads of wide receivers that didn't get in. As we've said, Xavier Legette didn't get in. That's one that was we were sort of talking, weren't we, when we did the wide receivers? We thought a lot of them would be at the end of it. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of a surprise that a lot of these wide receivers didn't get in. But yeah.
Also, only 4 quarterbacks, no Penix.
Yeah, no Penix, no Bo Nix.
Do you think that they both fall out the first round?
Potentially. I feel like with Penix should be a first round pick. I think myself. Bo Nix. I suppose the problem with Bo Nix is that he was very sort of like script heavy, wasn't he? With they went in this particular way of playing, and so maybe that will put a lot of NFL teams off. Yeah, and then obviously McCarthy being in there as well, a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I think we might see Byron Murphy creep up the board and into some people's Spurs as well. But that's all we've got time for. That's our first mock in the books. Adam, are you going to put out another vote onto Twitter to see who we want to do next?
Yeah. So we've got, I believe we'll be doing the betting show, won't we, next Friday? So we'll be doing that to finish off the season before the Super Bowl, and then we will be doing more of these. So there will be more of them out there for you. So you can just vote and pick who you want, and we will do who you want.
But until then, keep it with the franchise tag, and we will see you again.